Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as the program it will momentarily start. Please take your seats. Settle into your seats because the program will start soon. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is just seconds away. Please take your seats. Grab your seats now.
But nobody's presenting them to Mark. Mark and I are standing here, and they're walking up to him. They're coming now. The second person is coming around. We don't know them by face. We need someone to put them on, please.
Walk them out. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. If you're standing in the front or you're standing talking to your friends, please sit down, take a seat. So this is what I suggest. If there's no what I'm going to do Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the heads of state as they enter the room, ladies and gentlemen. I shall now call the list of the heads of state who've joined us for this momentous occasion. We are joined by His Excellency Abdelmajid Tebboune, represented by His Excellency Salah Eddin Talib, the Governor of Algeria. We're joined by the Honorable Isaac Chester Cooper, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism for the great nation of Bahamas. We are joined by Prime Minister, Republic of Barbados, Mia Amor Motley. His Excellency the President, Republic of Guinea-Bissau, Umaro Sissoko Embalo. The President, Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency Mohamed Irfan Ali. The Honorable Philippe Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Joined by his beautiful wife, the President of the Republic of Suriname, His Excellency Chandrikape Rasad Santokhi. Representing His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, is the Minister of Finance of Rwanda, His Excellency Nadajigama Uzil. His Excellency Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada. Representing His Excellency the Chairperson of the African Union, Moussa Faki, is the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union. Our convener, the President of Afreximbank, Professor Benedict Oke Orama, with his beautiful wife. the Prime Minister, Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Philip Davis, and his beautiful wife. We are also joined by His Excellency, who is in the room, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. Nana Akufo-Addo. Brothers and sisters, please remain standing for the Afreximbank anthem.
Within the shores of the motherland and far beyond, with dignity we rise and we build a bridge for all. Integrity, respect, trust, excellence, commitment, creativity. We will build for Africa's prosperity. We will build for the now and posterity. As we standing together, we prepare to forever. We are transforming Africa's trade.
Next, remain standing for the anthem of the African Union. We stand in unison for the national anthem of our host country, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Please be seated. My name is Mark Edo. Welcome to all of you. I'm the co-master of ceremonies today, and with me is Bahamas' own Dr. Debbie Bartlett. We're honored to have so many leaders here today. Indeed, your presence is a testimony to the commitment to the vision of a global Africa. We also welcome our ministers, our former heads of state, our heads of subnational governments, our captains of industry. Some of the leading lights of industry in the Caribbean and in Africa are sitting in this room today. Our small and medium-sized business owners, equally important. They are the engines of growth for the global Africa. Welcome through trade, through investment in business. We Africans and Caribbeans will travel together. Now, beautiful Bahamas may be small in population, but it's very, very big on talent. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage a daughter of these islands, who's a multi-talented vocalist and performer. Her song, Lift Every Voice, is a rallying cry to the heart of the diaspora. Please give a warm Afri-Caribbean welcome to Fanshawe Taylor.
Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day. Let us march on till victory is won.
And that beautiful song was created by one of the children of this island, Bahamas. So now, without much ado, I'd like to invite my co-MC to take us through the welcome remarks. She's a much-loved and familiar face and voice on these shores, a veteran journalist, the CEO of GEMS Radio, life coach, author, and TV talk show host. Please give a warm welcome to Bahamas' own Dr. Debbie Bartlett.
It's an honor to be in the presence of kings and queens. The Portuguese and Europeans started the transatlantic slave trade over 400 years ago. Slaves primarily came from West Africa via the Elmina Dungeon in Ghana to Clifton Pier, here in Nassau. The Bahamas was a transshipment point to America. We were battered, shackled, displaced. Today, the original kings and queens of Africa are here to help restore ownership and prosperity to their children. Afreximbank and delegates, welcome to the Bahamas. The gateway, come on, let's hear it, Bahamians. Let's feel it, let them feel our love. The gateway to the Caribbean, the birthplace of the modern nations of the Americas. This historic signature moment, the Afreximbank Conference themed Own Our Destiny, Economic Prosperity on the Platform of Global Africa, is designed to shift and empower the mindset of global Africa. To quote several panelists, less talk, more action. Equally as important, this Afreximbank Conference is a tribute to and a legacy moment to the leadership of Africa, the mother of civilization. Honor your mother and your father so that your days will be long. Come on, Africa, let's hear it. Hey, hey. This conference will create bonds of friendship and facilitate ownership opportunities that would lead to increased and expanded territory. Bringing our first remarks is the Minister of Economic Affairs and Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Senator, the Honorable Michael Halkidas. He shares the vision of ownership and prosperity. His focus is youth. He is helping to create a path for young people to have success to quality education and economic empowerment opportunities. Senator Halkidas is a highly distinguished financial analyst, trader, and portfolio manager. He served as Member of Parliament and Minister of State for Finance from 2012 to 2017. Please welcome Senator Halkidas to speak to this historic event.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bartlett. The Honorable Philip Davis, KC, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Presidents, Prime Ministers, other heads of state excellencies, heads of international and regional organizations, President and officials of the Afreximbank, fellow colleagues, private sector representatives, all our distinguished guests in attendance here today, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is with great pleasure that I welcome such an esteemed gathering of guests from Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora to the Bahamas. Our nations and people have much shared heritage, and the spirit of connection between the wider Caribbean and African regions have never been closer than they are today. The Bahamas has been provided with an excellent opportunity to host the 31st Afreximbank annual meeting and the 3rd Trade and Investment Forum, which provides an opportunity to engage in critical discussions around the theme, Owning Our Destiny, Economic Prosperity on the Platform of Global Africa. The inaugural AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum was held by Afreximbank in Bridgetown, Barbados in 2022 under the theme, One People, One Destiny, Uniting and Reimagining Our Future. That event captured the imagination of participants and gave impetus to the 2nd Trade and Investment Forum, which took place in Guyana last year under the theme, Creating a Shared Prosperous Future. The current iteration taking place here in the Bahamas builds on those previous events. The Afreximbank is to be commended for the critical role it is playing in strengthening the connections and relationships between the Caribbean and the African region by hosting these fora in the Caribbean. We are assembled here because we share the sentiment that economic growth and development between African nations and Caribbean nations can only be good for all parties. Our cultural ties and similarities must be the bridge to cooperating and collaborating so that we can attain our common ambitions and break free from the traditional labels of third world developing nations and develop a common path to sustained, balanced, and equitable economic growth. The more events such as this that our respective regions organize, the stronger we will become collectively. Economic cooperation and integration between the African and Caribbean regions are pivotal for leveraging collective strengths and overcoming individual limitations of economies. The Caribbean community, CARICOM, has long recognized the benefits of regional integration, which include building resilience, scaling economies, and enhancing global bargaining power. And despite challenges such as differing national interests and structural policies, there is a concerted effort to harmonize economic policies and improve intra-regional trade. The convergence of payment innovations and strategic partnerships, particularly in cross-border payments, can set the stage for a new era of trade and economic prosperity between Africa and the Caribbean. This intra-regional cooperation provides the opportunity to tap into global value chains and foster economic stability, which is essential for the development of both regions. The ongoing efforts to move beyond political dialogue, let's talk, to private sector investment and engagement reflects a commitment to overcome historical barriers and create a unified economic space that benefits all participating nations. Speaking from the experience of the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean region in general, there has long been a trend of over-reliance on imports to sustain us economically. We have an over-reliance on imported goods. The COVID-19 pandemic was certainly an eye-opener for global trade, and the weaknesses of our traditional economic strategies were laid bare for all to see. This has subsequently led to a much greater regional focus on economic diversification and the need to strengthen economic ties with like-minded nations, such as those of our brothers and sisters across the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, there has never been a better time for us to come together and chart a new course forward economically than the present. The concept of Afri-Caribbean free trade has been gaining momentum as a significant step towards economic integration and development of both regions. There is an estimated $1 billion in export potential between Africa and the Caribbean, emphasizing the need for stronger trade relationships and the removal of barriers such as high tariffs and non-tariff barriers. The potential benefits of such collaborations could include increased competitiveness for small businesses, access to new markets, and the promotion of sectors ranging from food to tourism. Moreover, there is now more than ever, a need for credible data on market opportunities, supporting exporting firms and guiding governments. Platforms such as this Afri-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum help to facilitate discussions on critical issues such as global financial restructuring, climate change, and improving trade logistics, emphasizing the importance of a united front in international decision-making. The synergy between the African Union, CARICOM, and various other regional bodies underscores a commitment to overcoming historical separations and working together towards common goals. This includes enhancing infrastructure, promoting sustainable development, and fortifying economic ties, which are essential for the region's growth and resilience. And so, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to warmly welcome all of you to the Bahamas and to the Caribbean to this 31st Afreximbank annual meeting and the third Trade and Investment Forum. And I encourage all of you, as the theme so eloquently states, to own our destiny. Thank you very much and welcome.
I've had the delightful experience attending some of the sessions, and I look and I hear an accent, and I thought it was a Bahamian, but it was an African. It is my privilege and honor to invite His Excellency Musa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, represented by Her Excellency Dr. Monique Zanziban Gondwa. Please let her feel our love and welcome her as she brings remarks. Come on, let's do a little better than that.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Prime Minister Davis of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Your Excellencies, Heads of State, former Heads of State, Professor Benedict Orama, my brother Amkele, Ambassador Albert Muchanga, Honorable Ministers, Central Bank Governors, Captains of Industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, I'm honored to take part to this annual meeting of Afreximbank and address you today. The Chairperson tasked me to congratulate Afreximbank and wish these annual meetings a resounding success. Allow me to thank our host for the warm hospitality, and also to send our condolences to the government and people of Malawi over the tragic passing of the Vice President, our former First Lady, and other passengers in a helicopter crash. In addition, I wish to thank the Afreximbank President or Chairman, Professor Orama, for this vision, your steady leadership, and your continued support to the African Union Commission in particular, and the African Union member states in general, in addressing some of the pressing challenges of our time. We have witnessed the Afreximbank transitioning into a first-class supranational financial institution, championing African trade and driving growth across multiple sectors in Africa. You have introduced platforms designed to improve and facilitate trade in Africa under the auspices of the FCFTA, including a payment system and settlement system that is enabling low-cost cross-border payments being done in local currencies, thus enhancing the sovereignty of Africa and the Caribbean. We have also seen the Afreximbank achieve several milestones in line with our vision, Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Your Excellencies, The convening of us here today is a strong testimony that Africa and its 6 regions are harnessing their immense potential for robust and inclusive growth. Our convening here is historic, and it's also spiritual, as it strengthens the ties between African and Caribbean economies and between African Union and CARICOM. We look forward to accelerating intra-Africa-Caribbean trade and investment flows. Excellencies, the world today is going through turbulent moments. And in the face of these global challenges that continue to shock African and Caribbean economies and test our resilience, our hope lies in strengthening our unity and amplifying our voice on the global arena. As a member of the G20, or G21 for that matter, the African Union is prioritizing the reform of the international financial architecture, debt restructuring, food security and agriculture, energy transition, trade and investments, improving Africa's credit rating to boost investment, health, and vaccine manufacturing. Africa's and Caribbean's interests, though nuanced in some aspects, are strongly aligned in each of these areas. Our call for a comprehensive resolution of the sovereign debt crisis, the timely delivery of at-scale climate finance and investments, meaningful special drawing rights reallocation and channeling to our multilateral financial institutions for a higher leverage, fair international taxation regimes to curb illicit financial flows, reparations of stolen financial and heritage assets, global African reparations, and an inclusive UN Security Council, for instance, should grow even louder as we stand together. Equally important is our resolve to enhance internal governance systems, build stronger institutions, consolidate peace and security, and create conditions for a vibrant private sector to deliver jobs and prosperity. We are humbled by the reality that in some instances and jurisdictions, we have not excelled as we should. But our commitment to addressing a nexus of root causes of conflicts remains unwavering, as exemplified by the operationalization of the African Union Peace Fund that supports prevention efforts. The African Union invites the partnership with the private sector, with the diaspora, with the funds, with the multilateral financial institutions on this noble cause. Your Excellencies, though the world is going through difficult times, the African continent has the potential to navigate these and secure a sustainable economic growth path across the continent. Allow me to suggest just 4 ideas to ponder. First one is that our African governments and central banks should join the PAPs. This is the Pan-African the Pan-African Payment and Settlement Systems, and they should support the vision of a united and interoperable global Africa. The second idea is that African and Caribbean governments also need to rally behind the push to channel at least 30% of international reserves currently stacked in foreign banks back into Africa and Caribbean. The third idea is that mechanisms such as the Association of African Multilateral Financial Institutions deserve our full support to give them the impetus to drive continental development. In fact, in today's world of deeply fractured global financial architecture, reliance on our own institutions is imperative to accelerating progress in self-determined development. Finally, last but not least, I encourage Afreximbank shareholders to endorse the increase in the authorized capital of the bank and to support with additional capital for the bank to continue capacitating and continue deliver its development mandate. As I conclude my remarks, allow me to once again thank the government of the Bahamas, Barbados, Guyana, and the leadership of CARICOM for the opportunity to meet and engage on issues of mutual benefit on the margins of these annual meetings. The hosting of this conference, as I mentioned, is symbolic. And we, as African Union and Caribbean countries, look forward to even stronger partnership based on the principles of equality and a shared history and cultural ties. I commend the Afreximbank for the concept of the Global Africa in alignment with the African Union's declaration of the diaspora as the continent's sixth region. Unified Africans from across the world at over 2 billion people definitely will represent a powerful force for economic transformation. So let us make it a reality. Once again, thank you, Professor Orama, for creating these platforms to generate constructive strategies to spur development on our continent. Congratulations for the organization of successful Afreximbank annual meetings. May God bless us all.
I had the honor and privilege to visit Ghana a few years ago, but let's give Her Excellency another round of applause. And that honor was also extended by having dinner with the wife of the president as a keynote speaker at a women's conference in Ghana, so I feel especially privileged to invite the Honorable Abina Osei Asari, Minister of State, Ministry of Finance of Ghana. Come on, please. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Bahamas. It's only the Atlantic Ocean that separates the Bahamas, right there on Clifton Pier, from Ghana. So another round of applause for Ghana.
Your Excellency, Right Honorable Philip Davis, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, esteemed heads of state and government here present, the President of Afreximbank and Chairman of the Board of Directors, Professor Benedict Urama, members of the Board of Directors of Afreximbank, governors and deputy governors of central banks here present, distinguished shareholders of Afreximbank, the first president of Afreximbank, Mr. Christopher Edodu, Mr. Jean-Louis Ekra, the immediate past president of Afrexim, captains of industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 31st Afrexim annual meeting. On behalf of the bank's board, management and staff, I am honored to extend a heartfelt welcome to all shareholders and delegates. At the outset, I must say that the government and people of Ghana are deeply grateful for the privilege of hosting the landmark 30th Annual General Meeting and Anniversary celebrations in Accra last June. We also profoundly appreciate the support you have enjoyed since being entrusted with the chairmanship of the General Meeting over the past year. Though this year's meeting is taking place on this beautiful Caribbean island outside the continent, the warm air that greeted us, the food, and the wonderful warmth of the people is so distinctly African that one feels completely at home. Though we are about 10,000 kilometers from the African continent, the spirit of unity and collaboration that defines us is undeniably present. It is therefore my humble honor to extend our deepest appreciation to our gracious hosts, our brothers and sisters of the Bahamas, for their gracious hospitality. I'd also like to acknowledge the collaborative efforts of the Afreximbank team and their Bahamian counterparts for their meticulous planning, the facilities, and the exceptional measures taken to ensure the success of this event. Well done. This year's theme, Owning Our Destiny, Economic Prosperity on the Platform of Global Africa, is a powerful call to action. And this was expressed in all discussions that we had yesterday and was summed up by Arnold Ipe of the Business Council for Africa during the panel discussion yesterday in the words, "Talk less, do more." Speaker after speaker highlighted the immense potential for progress that lies within our grasp as Africans, both on the continent and in the diaspora. While Africa has witnessed significant progress in recent years, we have often suffered cycles that have challenged us and sometimes fueled a certain Afro-pessimism and undermined our resolve. Many have pointed to the inherent biases in the global economic order as obstacles to our efforts. However, reforming the global economic architecture is deeply linked to us taking control of our destiny. This requires us to harness the spirit of unity and collaboration to ensure that our economic progress is driven by our aspirations and not merely as an incidental outcome of the economic goals of others. These sentiments take us back to the historic 1900 Pan-African Conference and the 1919 Pan-African Congress that sought to lay the groundwork for economic collaboration and the tireless efforts of pioneers such as Marcus Garvey, who, among other efforts, established the Black Star shipping line to transport goods and passengers between and among the global African economy, and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first president, with his admirable dedication to Pan-Africanism. The enduring ties among us compel us to build bridges of commerce and investment, and a major pillar of this bridge is the annual African-Caribbean Trade Investment Forum. This forum, promoted by the Afreximbank, seeks to strengthen the ties between the private sector of our two regions to advance trade, investment, and economic transformation. We are happy and fortunate to have this year's forum as part of the annual meetings program this week. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am also pleased to report that our bank has continued to show resilience. Through diligent execution of our strategic plan, we have been able to produce commendable financial results, the details of which will be presented to us by President Urama. It is notable, however, to point out that the bank's net income rose to $756.1 million in 2023, from $455.3 million in the previous year. I think we deserve a better round of applause for that. Because this is a surge of 66%. And shareholders' equity grew robustly by 17.55% to $6.1 billion, bolstered by $349.8 million in new equity contributions as shareholders supported the General Capital Increase Program. On behalf of the Afreximbank, I extend my deepest appreciation to our shareholders for their support and capital investments and urge you all to continue to do more. Even more compelling is the fact that these impressive financial results have been accompanied by significant developmental impacts. Our strategic investments have enabled several countries to navigate recent financial crises. This highlights the importance of a strong African development institution and underscores the importance of continued capital support and safeguarding its success. We are pleased in this regard that African heads of state have taken the decisive steps towards repositioning African financial institutions under the distinguished patronage of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, my president and the president of Ghana. Together with Afrexim, the African Club must be promoted to reshape the destiny of global Africa. I understand, ladies and gentlemen, that the board is proposing to return part of the value generated by the bank to shareholders through a dividend declaration of $264.6 million, up from $159.3 million, which was declared last year. The proposed dividend is equivalent to a 35% payout ratio, which is a level maintained from last year. In line with the resolution taken at last year's annual general meeting, an additional special dividend for the concessionary financing window amounting to $50 million is also proposed, which is at the same level approved last year. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let us imagine the limitless potential of Afreximbank. By empowering this bank, we can propel global Africa to meet its rightful destiny. Let's just do it. In the clarion call of our gracious hosts, it must be forward, upward, onward, and together. To quote His Excellency P.J. Peterson this afternoon, he said, "Time for talking done. Time for action now. Nobody will stop us when we work together." So I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming to this Bahamian paradise, and I urge you to take advantage of you being here to enjoy the delights and splendors of the island that the island has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Abena Osei-Osare, State Minister in the Ministry of Finance for Ghana. Now, global Africa is not just a geographical or political term. It's a visionary construct that encompasses the vast network of African descendants and their impact worldwide. The concept recognizes our shared historical, cultural, and economic contributions as Africans and the African diaspora. It seeks to unify these contributions into a powerful, cohesive force on the global stage. To articulate and illustrate that further, I'd like to introduce to the podium the Director of Communications and Events of Afreximbank and the 2024 Chair of the Afreximbank Annual Meetings. Please give a warm welcome to Ms. Anne Eze.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I stand on existing protocol. As we meet here today as brothers and sisters on the platform of Global Africa, to reflect on the clarion call for all Africans worldwide to unite and to take our economic destiny back into our own hands. It is important to pause and recognize our shared past, because this is more than just a vision for the future. We must reach back and applaud the courage of those who went before us, those who fought this struggle from the start, and to reflect with our hearts full, with overwhelming pride at what their sacrifices set in motion. It is more than fitting, therefore, to pay homage today to a true pioneer of Pan-Africanism, to bear witness to his powerful and authentic voice. With sincere thanks to our sponsors at Vista Bank, I invite you to experience our cinematic presentation dedicated to the memory of the late, great Marcus Garvey. Thank you.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you. As you are aware, the world in which we live today is divided into separate race groups and distinct nationalities. Each race and each nationality is endeavoring to work out its own destiny to the exclusion of other races and other nationalities. We hear the cry of England for the Englishman, of France for the Frenchman, of Germany for the German, of Ireland for the Irish, of Japan for the Japanese, of China for the Chinese. We are raising the cry of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. There are 400 million Africans in the world who have Negro blood coursing through their veins. And we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people for the one common purpose of bettering their condition. The great problem of the Negro for the last 500 years has been that of disunity. It is for this purpose that we are asking you to join our ranks and to do the best you can to help us to bring about an emancipated race. If anything praiseworthy is to be done, it must be done through unity. If you believe that the Negro has a soul, if you believe that the Negro is a man, if you believe the Negro was endowed with the senses commonly given to other men by the Creator, then you must acknowledge that what other men have done, Negroes can't do. We want to build up cities, nations, governments, industries of our own in Africa, so that we'll be able to have a chance to rise from the lowest to the highest position in the African Commonwealth.
The powerful, powerful voice of Marcus Garvey. In addition to the heads of states that are here and the former heads of states that are here, are ministers or heads of subnational governments, there are governors here. We're also joined by the representative of Her Excellency, the President of Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu, represented by the Governor of the Bank of Tanzania, Mr. Emmanuel Tutuba. Now, the theme for this, the third Afreximbank annual meetings and the 31st Afreximbank annual meetings and the third African Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, which of course we're making history here. This is the first time that these two come together as one event. That is a very important thing. I think it deserves a round of applause, does it not? The theme is owning our destiny, economic prosperity on the platform of global Africa. We'd all agree now that we live in an era of uncertainty when it comes to things like global trade. Nations are prioritizing themselves, their own industries, at the expense of international trade. And now more than ever, We need to come together as one to find the solutions that can build resilience and promote growth across Africa and across the Caribbean together. As Nelson Mandela famously said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's at the heart of the global African vision. Please roll that video.
As we look back at the past with contemporary eyes, we lament the tremendous damage done to our people and imagine a future truncated. We see the destruction of a vast continent, historically integrated through trade and cultural exchanges, from the times of the pharaohs of Egypt in the north to Mansa Musa in the west, through the region of Monopatapa in the south. We see trade and exchanges disappear, brothers and sisters separated and turned into enemies at times. We see no effort to redress the wrongs of slavery and instead new wrongs inflicted in the form of colonialism. Africa relegated to a commodity economy with no hope of rising above the primordial. We see no effort to reunite us with our brothers and sisters brutally taken away from us, and who extended the African family beyond the shores of geographic Africa. We see no effort to promote industrial progress, buttressing the words of the colonial administrator Albert Sarrat, who said in the 1920s that the colony is forbidden to establish any industry, to improve itself beyond economic progress, to rise above the stage of producing raw materials, or to do business with neighboring territories for its own enrichment. It was an ugly reality formalized by the Berlin Conference of 1884-85, the summit that set the stage for the devastating fragmentation of Africa. Yet Africans, both in the geographic Africa and elsewhere, including the Caribbean, cast off outside domination to become politically independent states. Our leaders then set their sights on economic independence. And now, in a world where multilateralism is waning, it is important that Africans, wherever they may be, pull together. Global Africa must unite and rise to respond potently to the challenges of the new global economic order. Inspired by the declaration of the diaspora as the sixth region of Africa in 2008, Afreximbank took up the challenge of restoring the bridges broken by the ills of our past. Today, we are connecting Africans in geographic Africa under the umbrella of the AfCFTA and connecting Africans worldwide to their ancestral heritage through our diaspora program. We are determined to reinvent the Middle Passage as a new route for the exchange of goods and services between Africa and the Caribbean for our mutual advantage. Global Africa is indeed emerging with a purpose. It is a viable path to building a prosperous generation and restoring our dignity. The time is ripe to unleash global Africa. And Afreximbank is determined to be the trigger.
Global Africa. I'm reminded when Afreximbank launched the first ever AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum in Bridgetown, Barbados in 2022, under the patronage of you, Prime Minister, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados. And I remember when you said, and this stuck with me, together Africa and the Caribbean have the capacity to forever remove the scars of the Middle Passage. That's what you said. Now, when I look across this room, it's evident. The time is now. This is the time. We have the political will. We have the private sector will. We have the leadership. We have the vision to make a global Africa a reality. You can almost feel the acceleration, can you not? Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a driving force behind Global Africa. Please give a warm welcome to make the opening statement, the President and Chairman, the Board of Directors of Afreximbank, Professor Benedict Orama.
Thank you very much, Mark. Our dear host, Honorable Philip Davis, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and his dear wife, His Excellency Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of Mauritania and the Chairperson of the African Union, represented by His Excellency Mr. Ta Ahmed Mouloud, His Excellency Mohamed Efan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and Chairperson of CARICOM, Your Excellencies, former Presidents, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Prime Ministers, here President, Your Excellencies, former Presidents, former Prime Ministers, former Vice Presidents of both Africa and the Caribbean, Your Excellencies, the Chairpersons of the African Union Commission and the CARICOM, Your Excellencies, heads of regional, continental, and international organizations, corporate leaders and special guests, Afreximbank shareholders, members of the board of directors of the bank, former presidents of Afreximbank, the executive management of the bank, my dear colleagues, all protocols observed. A few days ago, we received the sad news of the death in a plane crash of the Vice President of the Republic of Malawi, Mr. Saulus Chilima, and others. Our prayers go to His Excellency President Lazarus Chakwera, his government, and the people of Malawi for these irreparable losses. It is on account of that tragic incident that President Chakwera was unable to join us here in Nassau. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Your Excellencies, Honorable Prime Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this week we celebrate an important milestone in the journey that began just under 3 years ago. A journey that owes its origins to the catastrophic COVID-19 pandemic. History is replete with stories of transformational ideas, projects, and initiatives that were the byproducts of responses to a major crisis. The Afreximbank Caribbean outreach was no different. Today's event presents a unique opportunity to tell the story. At the height of the COVID-19 crisis in 2020, the world was turned into a jungle where only the fittest will survive. Procuring very basic face masks, test kits, and other COVID-19 containment items was a function of the size of your order and the depth of your pockets. Fragmented African economies, as well as small island Caribbean economies, stood little or no chance. For the first time, the African Union quickly realized the power of aggregating and pooling its over 1.4 billion people rather than engage in the market as individual countries. It then mandated Afreximbank, Africa CDC, and the UN Economic Commission for Africa to develop a pooled procurement mechanism for COVID-19 supplies. We developed and deployed the African Medical Supplies Platform, a digital platform used to pool Africa's demand and to deliver COVID-19 supplies across Africa. At the request of the CARICOM, they were added to the pool and availed of access to the highly discounted supplies negotiated by the African Union with the government of China. Afreximbank's payment and letters of credit services, underpinned by its $3 billion pandemic response facility, were also made available to participating CARICOM countries. A few months later, the struggle for access to life-saving COVID-19 vaccines began. It was such a chaotic market that manufacturers only spoke to those with certain minimum orders and proof of significant funds. The African Union used the same pooled procurement mechanism to procure up to 400 million doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine in a $2 billion deal underwritten and funded by Afreximbank. CARICOM economies were again admitted into the arrangement and received the much-needed vaccine doses under the guarantee and financing of Afreximbank. It is notable that at a time of extreme nationalistic instincts and primitive self-preservation, it was Africa that was willing to share the little it had with the CARICOM. By being there for CARICOM countries in their greatest hour of need, African Union demonstrated unequivocally its commitment to its declaration of the African diaspora as its sixth region, and gave practical meaning to the concept of global Africa. And for Afreximbank, which participated actively in financing and delivering the support to the Caribbean, and which had a few years earlier deployed a diaspora strategy aimed at positioning it as the global Africa Bank, it was time to head west to the Caribbean. It was time to take the center stage in promoting, facilitating, and financing intra-African trade with the emphasis on the end to show that the bank will be ready to support all Africans wherever they may be. In 2021, we began that journey with a visit to our sister, Maya Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. And this week, Your Excellencies, we're all here in the Bahamas to attend the 31st annual meetings of the bank, the first ever to be held in the Western Hemisphere. With almost 4,000 people convened here, Afreximbank is firmly establishing the roots of African capital to centers of concentration of African people. The Global Africa Bank has emerged. And it emerges as we celebrate the greatest gathering of Africans in the Caribbean ever in history. Honorable Prime Ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you can now understand why we are overwhelmed with joy as we welcome you and your another esteemed guests and partners to the 31st annual meetings of Afreximbank and the 3rd annual AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum. Afreximbank extends its profound appreciation to Honorable Prime Minister Philip Davis, his government, and indeed the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas for graciously hosting this historic event. We are most grateful for the cordial and uniquely warm African reception received since our arrival here in Nassau. We also extend our appreciation to the heads of state and governments and their representatives, heads of international, continental, and regional institutions, corporate leaders, and all our esteemed partners who made sacrifices to join us here. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, We realize that the fate of all Africans, irrespective of their geographic location, race, or color, is inextricably linked. In today's world where might is right, the weak can only find strength in unity. The over 2 billion Africans spread around the world must now recognize that together they constitute a powerful economic force that cannot be ignored anymore. They must also recognize that power can only be potent and credible if delivered on a common and cohesive platform. Since 2022, we have made progress towards creating that common platform. Following my visit to Barbados in September 2021 and the launch of the annual AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum in 2022, we have recorded remarkable achievements. 11 of the 15 member states of the CARICOM have joined the Afreximbank family. They all signed the partnership treaty that effectively conveys the same rights and privileges to Afreximbank as accorded to the bank by African countries under the Afreximbank Establishment Agreement. In 2023, Afreximbank opened its Caribbean regional office in Bridgetown, Barbados, which immediately commenced operations. The regional chief operating officer, Mr. Hedrika, is here with us. In less than 2 years, we built a pipeline of transactions amounting to about $2.5 billion across the CARICOM. Transactions executed and or under processing include a climate adaptation facility that is helping to rebuild schools damaged by severe adverse weather in St. Lucia. A trade finance line of credit to a bank that is expanding access to trade services in St. Kitts. A sports complex rehabilitation in Barbados that we hope will foster the expansion of sports and entertainment collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean. A project preparation facility that will support the emergence of a permanent trade exhibition facility in the Bahamas. A term loan to Guyana that is expected to accelerate critical infrastructure development in support of that rapidly expanding economy. A major oil-linked deal that will help realize Suriname's oil production ambitions. And a term loan in support of investments by Orascom Group, Egypt, in a tourism facility in Grenada, and many more. African direct investment opportunities under implementation and discussion amount to about $1.5 billion, including tourism projects in Guyana and Grenada, post infrastructure projects in Barbados and Guyana, commercial fishery across 4 CARICOM states, investments in intra-island ferry services, as well as banking in the Bahamas, Barbados, and Guyana, to name but a few. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you can now see that we are reinventing a new middle passage, where goods and services and not humans are the stock in trade. Together, we are opening opportunities that until 2 years ago were deemed non-existent. And we are doing so in a trade-creating and not trade-diverting manner, thereby bringing efficiencies to our economies. Thanks to the work of Afreximbank, Dangote cement products and clinkers will soon become available to many Caribbean island economies at a much lower cost than alternative sources today. It's also now the case that African traders are buying Guyanese oil cargoes for global distribution and further refining in Africa. An Egyptian company, Evergreen, is set to develop commercial fisheries businesses in 4 CARICOM countries for export to Africa. Orascom, the giant Egyptian conglomerate, is building hospitality facilities across the region with the support of the bank. And the Barbados manufacturing giant Godard is expanding its exports of chemicals to a number of African countries. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while we celebrate the trade and investment flows we are beginning to see, I must hasten to remind us that the new future we are creating runs deeper. It is a future we celebrate because we are reclaiming our destiny. It is a new beginning, a rebirth, because we are rediscovering our mutual heritage. Through no fault of ours, we have wandered for centuries, tortured by a reality of kinship we had no courage nor wherewithal to reclaim. Today, thanks to our institutions, all that is changing. And that is why we are very pleased to have been selected by the Association of CARICOM Central Banks to pilot the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System in this region. We look forward to a successful conclusion of that pilot so that working with the central banks, we can extend the power of PAPs to the CARICOM and make it a fulcrum for lifting CARICOM Africa trade. We will then consider extending the $3 billion settlement fund available for Africa to the CARICOM. In that way, intra-CARICOM trade and Africa-CARICOM trade will be paid for in the national currencies of Africa and the CARICOM states, thereby significantly reducing transaction costs. We are also very pleased to be moving beyond trade to people, emotions, and dreams. Afreximbank has extended the Creative Africa Nexus, the CANEX program, to the CARICOM region. We have taken CARICOM designers to Portugal Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week, exposing them to global brands. Celebrity chef Natasha DeBorg from Trinidad and Tobago was featured at the 2023 CANEX at Inter-African Trade Fair 2023 in Cairo. And those of you who will be attending Afrexim Fest tomorrow night will listen and dance to pulsating music from a new album, One Drum, a project of a unique Afro-Caribbean collaboration under the auspices of Afreximbank's CANEX program. The album features great global African musicians such as Afro-Caribbean musicians such as Olodu of Brazil, Stephen Marley of Jamaica, Flavor of Nigeria, Scorpion Kings of South Africa, Mohammed Ramadan from Egypt, and Sophia from Kenya. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is clear to us that it is people and not goods that will make the difference in this rediscovery journey we have embarked upon. That is why we have so far hosted 3 Caribbean and 4 Brazilian interns and given them opportunities to tour Africa. We are considering expanding the opening for Caribbeans from 4 to about 8 from this year. We will also welcome a partnership to send African interns to CARICOM governments and businesses under the broader Afreximbank internship program. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we made the foray into the Caribbean, we did not lose our focus on continental Africa, the origin of all Africans and indeed humankind. The past year was a phenomenal year for the bank and its work across Africa. Despite lingering macroeconomic challenges, the bank disbursed an amount of $18 billion, up by 8.7% from the previous year's $16.6 billion. These brought total assets and guarantees to an amount of $37.3 billion at the end of 2023. Just as we grew our assets, we also grew value for shareholders. Total revenues of our Afreximbank Group rose by 74.2% to reach $2.6 billion, with profits rising by 66% to $756 million. Group entities, including the Fund for Export Development in Africa and Afreximbank, started making modest contributions to revenue and profit. Beyond these figures, Your Excellencies, Beyond these figures, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are much more excited about the lives touched and the positive changes the bank made during the year. And because there were many, permit me to highlight just a few. We are proud to have been able to provide additional crucial support which enabled the giant projects being undertaken by Dangote Refining and Petrochemical Company to commence operations this year. That additional facility brought our direct and indirect support to the complex over the years to $2.6 billion, which has helped birth 3 monumental projects for Africa and indeed all Africans all over the world. The projects that have been supported and which have emerged from this support include the largest single train oil refinery in the world, with processing capacity of over 650,000 barrels per day of crude oil. Again, one of the largest nitrogen fertilizer plants, producing 3 million tons of urea fertilizer per year, to soon rise to 6 million tons. And a petrochemical plant, which will produce about 1 million tons of polypropylene a year. We are proud to be associated with that transformational project and highlight it to demonstrate the value and critical role of the capital we own and control in financing our development. It was African capital that made the difference in delivering those monumental Dangote projects. We congratulate Mr. Aliko Dangote, who is here with us, for his exemplary courage and entrepreneurial leadership in birthing that $19 billion project. And we look forward to working with the CARICOM Secretariat to eventually develop the Caribbean Afreximbank so that together we can look forward to supporting similar transformational projects in the region. Without your own banks like ours, prime ministers, presidents, for CARICOM, you will not dream of having this project. Nobody is going to do it for you. And our support to the Dangote project was strategic and came in the context of the combined support amounting to $1.3 billion to build a new refinery in Cabinda, Angola, and refurbish the Port Harcourt refinery in Nigeria. Our goal is to support the creation of refining capacity that will ensure that at least 50% of about 5 million barrels per day of crude oil produced in the Gulf of Guinea is refined in Africa. We consider that this will reduce carbon emissions from shipping, create jobs in Africa, and improve access to energy. And in order to tackle Africa's energy crisis long-term and in the context of the emerging climate challenges, Afreximbank went into a partnership with members of the African Petroleum Producers Organization to create the Africa Energy Bank to be capitalized at $5 billion. The treaty establishing the Energy Bank was opened for signature on June 3, 2024, just a few days ago. Afreximbank is the co-investor in that energy bank, which once operational later this year will focus on helping African Petroleum Producer Organization member countries to transition in an orderly manner to greener sources of energy while ensuring that they continue to use their oil and gas resources to support their immediate developmental needs. We also continue our support towards Africa's industrialization through our collaborations with ARISE Integrated Industrial Platform. In 2023, the bank approved a $1 billion facility for ARISE to support the development of industrial parks and special economic zones across Africa, including in Cote d'Ivoire, Malawi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, Kenya, Nigeria, and elsewhere. This facility came on the full repayment of an aggregate of about $1 billion granted to ARISE and used to finance the development of special economic zones in Gabon, Benin, Togo, Chad, and Rwanda. ARISE is also the implementing entity under the $3 billion Special Agro-Processing Zone Initiative the African Development Bank is championing with Afreximbank, the Africa Finance Corporation, and other institutions. We thank ARISE and the AFC for impactful partnership in pursuit of Africa's industrial development. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, 2023 was a year some of our initiatives also began to be fully rooted. We expanded activities under the Africa Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme such that today over $340 million in transit guarantees have been issued. Our insurance subsidiary, Afreximbank, has also issued over $3.2 billion in insurance cover, while our impact fund, FEDA, has now deployed more than half of the about $700 million committed to it by Afreximbank. In November 2023, Afreximbank, in partnership with the African Union Commission and the AfCFTA Secretariat, hosted the third in the biennial Intra-African Trade Fair in Cairo, Egypt. Despite the challenging political economic environment, it attracted over 29,000 visitors, 2,000 exhibitors, and about $43 billion in deals that were signed. We use this occasion to thank the members of the CARICOM that participated in the fair. We look forward to many more CARICOM countries joining the fourth edition of the trade fair that will hold next year in Algeria during September 4 to 10, 2025. Your Excellencies, Honorable Prime Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have laid the foundation on which progress can be made. We must now pool our strengths and resources to pursue investments that will remove the wedge between Africa and the Caribbean. We must create the conditions that will support the expansion of intra-Caribbean air shipping lines and maintain incentives that will enable us begin to fly from Africa to the Caribbean and vice versa, and also ship goods from Africa to the Caribbean. Afreximbank stands ready to work with partners to support these and similar efforts with an array of product offerings. We must now commit to a Bahamas Accord that will ensure the adoption of PAPs for intra-Caribbean payments and AfriCaribbean payments. An accord that will ensure that we accelerate the implementation of the CARICOM Exim Bank. An accord that will also emphasize the commencement of structured people-to-people exchange between Africa and the Caribbean. We should also begin to consider initiating a free trade agreement negotiation between Africa and the Caribbean. We recognize that this will only make sense if we begin to build strong business links and promote tourism flows between our two regions. Through the forum we are gathered here to attend, we are enabling businesses across our regions to tap into the vast opportunities in our respective geographies. We are exposing the financing and payment services that can underpin that trade. And as we echo the call for action, under the platform of Global Africa, I leave us with a quote from W.E. Du Bois, who wrote, and I quote, "Awake, awake,
by to make
are.